$4.8 billion, committed, flowing into a country of 5.5 million people, and the global technology companies driving that investment are not building there because of the workforce or the domestic market. They are building there because of the cold. Here's what this means for you. Every search query, every stream video, every AI response, every financial transaction runs through data centers that consume electricity and generate heat. Cooling those data centers is one of the largest operational costs in modern technology infrastructure. When Google, Microsoft, Meta, and Amazon pick where to build, they are making trillion-dollar bets about where they can operate most efficiently and most securely for the next 30 years. Finland just became one of their preferred answers. The economics behind that choice have implications for European energy prices, data sovereignty, the AI arms race, and geopolitical control of the infrastructure that runs the digital economy. This channel does not run on corporate funding or government backing. If this kind of analysis matters to you, subscribe and turn on notifications. Let us establish the facts. Finland has attracted a wave of hyperscale data center investment that is dramatically disproportionate to its size. Google operates data centers in Hamina and Suma. Microsoft has major investments in the Helsinki region. Meta announced a data center investment in Kajaani that represents one of the largest foreign direct investments in Finnish history. Amazon Web Services has expanded its Nordic presence with Finnish infrastructure investment. The total committed capital exceeds $4.8 billion and continues to grow as AI computing demand accelerates the global race to build processing capacity. The reasons are specific and structural. Finland's climate provides ambient air temperatures that significantly reduce the cooling energy required to maintain server temperature within operating specifications. Data centers typically need to maintain hardware temperatures below 25 to 27 degrees Celsius. In a country where average temperatures are routinely below 10 degrees Celsius and can drop well below freezing for months at a time, passive cooling through outside air reduces or eliminates the need for mechanical refrigeration systems that consume significant electricity. The numbers on cooling efficiency are not marginal. In tropical or warm temperate climates, cooling can represent 40% or more of a data center's total energy consumption. In Finland's climate, state-of-the-art data centers can achieve power usage effectiveness, PUE, the ratio of total facility power to IT equipment power, of 1.10 to 1.15. Industry average PUE globally is around 1.58. The gap between a PUE of 1.58 and 1.10 represents approximately 30% lower energy consumption for the same computing work. At the scale of hyperscale data centers consuming hundreds of megawatts, 30% lower energy consumption is not a rounding error. It is hundreds of millions of dollars per year in operating cost. Finland also offers a second structural advantage: clean, cheap electricity. Finland's energy mix is heavily nuclear. The new Olkiluoto 3 reactor, Europe's largest nuclear power plant when it reached full operation in 2023, added 1.6 gigawatts of low-carbon baseload capacity to a grid that was already substantially nuclear and hydro-powered. Carbon pricing under the European emissions trading system makes dirty electricity increasingly expensive. Finland's clean grid gives data centers located there a structural cost advantage over competitors in carbon-intensive electricity markets. Here is what the official narrative from Finnish government investment promotion agencies does not fully represent. The data center boom in Finland is part of a broader concentration of digital infrastructure in a small number of jurisdictions, and that concentration creates systemic risk that has received inadequate analytical attention. The hyperscale data center model, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Meta, each operating vast computing facilities under their own control, means that the physical infrastructure of the global internet, cloud computing, and increasingly AI computation is concentrated in a relatively small number of facilities operated by 4 American companies. The geopolitical implications of this concentration are significant and have been explicitly raised by European policymakers, but not resolved. European data sovereignty discussions, specifically the concern that European personal data, corporate data, and government data stored in American company-operated data centers, is subject to American law, including the Cloud Act, which allows American law enforcement to compel data disclosure from American companies regardless of where the data is physically stored, have been politically contentious for years. The Schrems II ruling by the European Court of Justice in 2020 invalidated the Privacy Shield framework that had allowed relatively smooth US-EU data transfers on the grounds that American surveillance law does not adequately protect European data subjects. The EU-US data privacy framework adopted in 2022 attempted to resolve this. But legal challenges to that framework are already underway, and the underlying tension: American tech giants want to operate unified global systems. European regulators want data governance that is not ultimately subject to American legal authority, has not been resolved. Only papers a förstelver. Finland's data centers are Finnish infrastructure run by American companies subject to American law. That is not a problem unique to Finland. It is a reality across Europe. But Finland's rapid emergence as a major European data center hub has concentrated this jurisdictional tension in one place in ways that European policymakers have not fully addressed. The AI dimension adds urgency to this analysis. The training and operation of large AI models requires computational resources that dwarf what conventional cloud computing demands. NVIDIA's H100 and H200 GPUs, the hardware that AI training runs on, consume 700 watts per chip at full load. Training a large frontier AI model runs thousands of these chips simultaneously for weeks or months. The electricity consumed by a major AI training run at current state-of-the-art is equivalent to the annual electricity consumption of a small town. As AI capabilities advance and the competition for AI supremacy between American and Chinese companies intensifies, the demand for data center capacity is growing faster than it has at any previous point in the industry's history. Microsoft's announced $80 billion global data center investment plan for 2025, a significant portion of which targets European AI infrastructure, reflects this acceleration. Finland is positioned to capture a disproportionate share of European AI infrastructure investment precisely because of its structural advantages: climate, clean electricity, grid stability, and a political environment within the EU that is stable and rule of law adherent. For AI infrastructure that processes sensitive data and runs strategic enterprise and defense applications, political stability and legal predictability matter as much as electricity cost. Now here is the geopolitical architecture that sits above the investment story. China is watching European data center geography with significant interest. Chinese tech companies, Alibaba, Tencent, Huawei's cloud division, have been expanding their European presence but face regulatory resistance that American companies, despite the data sovereignty tensions, do not face to the same degree. The European political consensus that Chinese technology companies pose security risks has effectively excluded Chinese cloud and data center operators from the European market in ways that create a structural competitive advantage for American incumbents. China's response has been partly to build alternative digital infrastructure ecosystems, the Digital Silk Road, that provide cloud computing, data center capacity, and digital connectivity to countries willing to accept Chinese technology without the Western security conditions. Countries in Southeast Asia, Africa, and the Middle East are targets of this alternative infrastructure offer. Finland and Western Europe are not. They are effectively out of reach for Chinese digital infrastructure investment. Russia represents a different kind of consideration for Finnish data center security. Finland joined NATO in April 2023, ending decades of military non-alignment, precisely because the Russian invasion of Ukraine had made Finnish strategic reassessment unavoidable. Finland shares a 1,340-kilometer land border with Russia. The combination of hyperscale data center infrastructure and a NATO frontline position creates security planning requirements that are not faced by American data centers in Iowa or German data centers in Frankfurt. The physical security of data center infrastructure against state-level adversarial action, sabotage of power supply, fiber optic cable cutting, cyber intrusion is a planning reality that Finnish operators take seriously. NATO membership provides a security umbrella but does not eliminate the risk calculus of operating critical digital infrastructure within potential conflict range of a nuclear-armed adversary. The Baltic Sea cable cutting incidents of 2023 and 2024. Subsea cables connecting Finland and other Baltic states to Western Europe were damaged in incidents attributed by Western intelligence to deliberate Russian action, made the infrastructure vulnerability concrete rather than theoretical. Data centers are only as resilient as the connectivity and power infrastructure that supports them. Now here is the economic dimension that the investment promotion narrative consistently overstates. Finland's data center boom creates direct employment, construction workers during build phases, facilities management and security personnel during operations. But hyperscale data centers are not labor-intensive operations. A facility consuming 200 megawatts of power and housing tens of thousands of servers might employ 50 to 100 people in direct operational roles. The employment density per $1 billion of investment is much lower than manufacturing or services investment of equivalent capital scale. The tax revenue implications are complex. Data center investments create property tax base, energy consumption that supports electricity industry revenues, and some income tax from employees. But tech companies are sophisticated about tax structures, and the relationship between data center investment in a jurisdiction and tax revenue to that jurisdiction is often less favorable than the headline investment figure suggests. The waste heat opportunity is real and underutilized. Data centers generate significant heat that must be dissipated. District heating systems, which are common in Finland and other Nordic countries, can capture that waste heat and use it to heat residential and commercial buildings, replacing fuel consumption that would otherwise have to be burned. Several Finnish data center operations have district heating integration agreements. This circular economy dimension genuinely improves the efficiency economics of Finnish data center location. Here are 3 predictions with timelines. Within 2 years, the pace of hyperscale data center investment in Finland will accelerate further as AI computing demand continues to outpace supply. Finnish electricity grid operators will face capacity questions. Can the grid actually absorb the power demand from planned and announced data center build-out without requiring new generation capacity? Watch for reports of grid constraint emerging as a limiting factor. Within 5 years, a European data sovereignty court ruling, TRUT, likely a Schrems III case or equivalent, will create genuine regulatory uncertainty for American tech company data centers in Europe. Finland's data center operators will need to navigate whatever compliance requirements emerge from that ruling, potentially restructuring data governance in ways that add operational complexity and cost. Within a decade, the geopolitical alignment of data center infrastructure will be visible as a permanent feature of the global digital economy. Europe will have a hyperscale digital infrastructure that is physically located in Europe, but largely owned and operated by American companies, with all the jurisdictional tensions that implies. Whether European policymakers will have resolved those tensions or simply deferred them will be the defining question of European digital sovereignty. What Finland's data center boom represents is the physical infrastructure of the AI era being built in real time in real places, with real geopolitical consequences. The investment figures are impressive. The strategic dependencies they embed are the story underneath the numbers. Drop your prediction in the comments. Does Finland's data center boom deliver long-term strategic and economic benefits to Finland and Europe, or does it primarily consolidate American tech company control of European digital infrastructure in ways that European regulators will eventually push back against? Tell me, because I read every single one, if this gave you a framework for understanding digital infrastructure geopolitics that the investment headlines missed. Share it with one person who needs to understand what is actually happening. The next video goes somewhere even this one did not reach. Subscribe so you are there when it lands.